All right, welcome to the Franchise Time Machine. First thing I wanted to do was congratulate our fellow OOTP affiliate streamer EVC NYC2 for winning PTCS today. That was pretty awesome. Let's see. I can pull up the tournament tree for the one he won. So let me pull that up and then we'll. Oh, that's awesome. You got Randy Wolf. That's great. All right, let's see. I think this is the right one, right? Oh no, I thought was it not? It wasn't iron bronze. Was it gold silver? Okay, I have the wrong account up then. Yeah, it was really fun to watch EVC streaming his own PTCS as he made. I mean, I don't think I'm going on a limb to say it was an unexpected run to the championship. Let's see. All right, here's silver gold. Okay, this should have the tournament tree. All right, here we go. Let's see. All right, so in case you missed it, if you're busy today or weren't following PTCS or watching several streams, CWIT was streaming PTCS, EVC, Angered Unicorn, and then the Mothership streamed the finals. Really like that PTCS OTP developments coverage because they bounce between all the different levels. I don't know how DishNet keeps it straight, but it's pretty awesome. But yeah, here's EVC's Banshees winning the championship. And they beat Queso Cats, whose manager was in the chat, so that was kind of fun. And I mean, he gets everything but one card anyway, so he had an amazing run as well. But yeah, we can follow EVC back. Let's see, there he is down here. So did he come out of? Okay, he came out of the bottom half of the bracket here. Yeah, there we go. So here's his path. Let's see. First round, wins the first three, loses the next three. It's best of 9, and then wins the last two, including the fourth win in extras, and the fifth win by 4-run margin. This one was the Washington Border Collies. So that's round one. Automatically earns a second prize card, and then advances to round two. Starts off 1-1, goes up 2-1, goes down 3-2, and then wins 3 in a row to win 5-3, including another pivotal extra innings win here. And that was against the Los Ocramento Nomads, JK 25-25-25 team. I assume this is an Oakland, Los Angeles, Sacramento A's. Maybe a potential theme team or just a tribute name. Anyway, another back and forth series. So now VVC's in round 3. Goes up 1-0. Loses a 12-inning, 1-run game to go 1-1. Goes up 3-1. Loses to go 3-2. Wins to go 4-2, 4-3. Never behind in the series. So pretty I mean, in a best of 9, this would probably felt not too uncomfortable. wins 5-3. And that was against No Tango Dinero, a Halmo team. Okay, so now we're in what, 1, 2, 3, round 5. Hey, Tom Ozu, we're just taking a look at EVC and NYC 2's PTCS Gold Silver Championship today. All right, now playing against the Virginia Tech Hokies and the Enrique M team. Comes out of the gate, first time I think he's been behind in a series. No, he did fall behind 3-2 in that second series, but starts off 0-1. Then comes back to tie it 1-1. Goes ahead 2-2. Falls behind again 3-2, losing 2 in a row. Another pivotal extra inning win here, tying it 3 apiece. Falls behind, another extra inning win, 4 games apiece, best of 9, wins the 4. So every time there's not necessarily a must-win game, but one that feels like it. It's an extra inning win, like really clutch. Yeah, Tito's right. I actually did think about taking the day off today. I've been pretty run down. My wife's been out of town on a business trip, and it's just a lot harder just getting everything done. Plus, getting stuff ready for taxes and both at work and at home. But I fell asleep with one of my daughters today while my wife took the older one out. So I got a little bit of rest, and then actually watching EVC stream his PTCS one was pretty recharging too. So I thought I did consider canceling tonight's stream, but I am here. So again, this time falls behind 0-1 against the Los Warriors, a huddle team. Oh, this is Eddie Wonton. All right, falls get up 1-0 to Eddie Wonton. Ties it up 1-1. Holy cow. Falls behind 4-1. So 4 must-win games in a row, wins them all. Bam. About as close as you come to a reverse sweep without reverse sweeping. That is, to me, the losing into that has to be brutal. Yeah, Team of Destiny, especially after this series. I mean, all the other series, it's just like he's got a good team. He's playing well. He fell behind a couple times, but a lot of those series, it seemed like he's cruising. But this is different. You go down 3-1 in a best of 9, or 4-1, 4-1 in a best of 9, and you win 4 consecutive must-win games. Speaking of not having a day off, starting with this Virginia Tech series, 9-game series, LA 9-game series, TMZ 9-game series. So he came into the final having played 3 consecutive 9-game series with no days off. And I bet this was an important win in the final, to start off this final with a win after having an exhausted team. Because without that win, he loses 2 in a row. A 1-2 hole in a 9-game feels way different than an 0-3. It then comes back to win 3 in a row. Again, another extra inning win in an important spot there. Loses 4-8 and then wins the championship 3-0. It was fun to watch. I only saw the beginning, and in the beginning you don't think anything of it because there's so much tournament to go. But at the end, it did feel like Flying WV said, Team of Destiny. And it was actually fun kind of being along for the ride, watching him kind of freak out and then watching him be super excited at the end. So that was awesome. It's what makes PTCS great, is so many of the streamers play and occasionally will do well on stream. I know Spores made a run. I know Seawitz Seawit may have actually even won on stream. I think he did in late PT25. So yeah, that was really cool. All right, so what we're gonna do tonight, we did a team strategies experiment. It was like a night or two ago, and it was interesting. The findings are interesting. Um, Not necessarily super relevant to perfect team, because a few reasons, right? The teams are completely neutral, so it's hard to say that it would necessarily apply to an environment where both your team has a variety of player profiles and your opposition has a variety of player profiles. Also, again, we know, and I say this as a disclaimer every time, the base game engine different from the perfect team engine. Similar, built off of the um, same engine, but not exactly the same, and we don't know necessarily what those differences are. But I think the biggest thing is that the teams are completely average instead of, and there's a difference between every player being the same and being average, and having a varied roster where the net effect is having an average level team, right? Like the major leagues are major league average, but they contain a Shohei Ohtani and an Aaron Judge, right? And then you have a bunch of scrubs that balance them out, and everything in between that leads to major league average. In this league, everyone's the same and right down the middle, and that's got to be different from a strategy perspective, and that's hard to account for. But anyway, we did that experiment. Let me see if I can pull up the results here. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Team strategies. Let me open this up. I'll share it on the screen. Okay, here's what it looked like. Here are the results. Okay, as far as let's sort it out by wins first. There's a reason we don't use wins, but that's what we saw during the stream, right? Like during the simulation, we're seeing the wins, not say the runs for and runs against. Okay, so when you start there, traditional and balanced were first and second. No one predicted that. The top two predictions were Sabermetric, who finished fourth, and Moderate Sabermetric, which finished last. The win totals are crazy because it's a 1,620 game season. It's a 10x long season because we're trying to get past that small sample size effect. So we ran a sim that's 10 times as long as a regular season. All right, so no one predicted traditional and balanced to come out ahead. Now, I guess kind of predictably, the best run differentials did finish first and second. For the most part, run differential did align with. So this team order right now is the win order, and it tracks pretty closely to run differential, except that Tactician had a better run differential than Sabermetric and Moderate Small Ball, but finished behind them in the standings. Now, what was interesting was Traditional had the most runs scored, and Small Ball had the fewest runs against. Now you contrast it with moderate Tactician, which had almost the lowest run total, and also gave up the most runs. So one thought was maybe 1,620 games is still too small. Do we run this back? But what I thought would be interesting would be if we take the offensive aspects of Traditional, who came in first in runs for. Now, they only finished one run ahead of Balanced. But they did finish in first place. They had the best run differential, so I thought, okay, let's run with traditional. And then what if we take the defensive aspects of small ball, who gave up by a pretty good margin the fewest runs? Now, if you take, if that could potentially give you the offensive production of traditional and the defensive runs against of small ball, could that then do even better than all of these? And I think based on the run differential results, let's just take moderate tactician out because we need room for another strategy. We only have 8 spots in this league. I think moderate tactician has proved that it's pretty bad. Now, moderate sabermetrics is one where they actually performed pretty well in run differential, but for whatever reason lost a bunch of games. And part of what we talk about is you already have a lot of RNG impacting how many runs you score and how many runs you give up based on whatever changes we're making. There are even more RNG affected factors that translate from even run differential to wins, and you can see like there's not a consistent. There is some correlation here, but it's not consistent. So we're not going to look too much at wins, but it's still a pretty decent signal of, did you do pretty well or not well in run differential, but it's not perfect. So when you look at the run differential results, I think moderate tactician is worth tossing. It is by far the worst in run differential. So we're going to repeat this experiment, but we'll take out the worst performer in moderate tactician. We're going to add in what we think might be a hybrid of the best the best offensive strategy and the best defensive strategy. And let's just see how it goes. I don't know how it's going to do. None of us know. We're all in the same boat. So I thought that would be a fun way to run the experiment tonight. Now, this is extra small sample size, but I did try running this hybrid strategy in some tournaments. I did Friday Night Live and a couple of live silvers with this strategy. It's hard to tell because in a lot of those tournaments, it's just hard to get out of round one anyway. And those are tournaments that I think I did win or come in second to Friday Night Live. I've won live silver several times, but I've also finished in the first round many times. And that's why the small sample size is hard. I had 4 samples. I think 2 of them I was out in round 1. Another I was out in round 2. And I think one of them I made it to like the 4th round. Not enough to say like, oh, this strategy is working or not working. But I like the live as a test bed for that because the card environment live changes less than in non-live. Now it changes a lot at each live update, but then you have a month of stability. And you have no variance to come in and, increase the rating pool. Whereas in non-live, you have new cards being introduced every week, sometimes twice a week. You have cards that are variants that are getting boosted, that are being bought in the auction house. And so I thought live would be a great place to test it. But, not enough sample. Now, if all 4 had made it to like semifinals, I would have said, oh, this is an amazing strategy. If all 4 had washed out in round 1, that's still not uncommon, but I still might have said, okay, maybe this isn't a great strategy. But the nature of it finishing kind of in the middle of the road, it's hard to say. I didn't trust it, though. I did look at it. I'm like, man, I don't know about this. But I'll show you what it looks like. And we're just basically going to take, again, the offensive parts of traditional and the defensive parts of small ball and see what that looks like. So I'm glad Flying WV likes the thought experiment. I think it's a fun idea too. So we're gonna try it out. So the first thing we usually do is let's work on the pack giveaway form. So I'll probably base it on last night's, or I guess was it last night or 2 nights ago? I can't tell. Last night was a roster build. Was it yesterday afternoon? I don't know. My brain feels like mush after a PTCS. Partly because I spend most of the night, Thursday night and Friday night, building rosters and stuff. Yesterday afternoon. That sounds right, Flying W. That'll help me actually find the forum too. You didn't make last night. If you're not a big roster building fan or a PTCS fan, you didn't miss too much. That's what we do on Thursday and Friday nights for PTCS. I think it's a lot of fun. Um, and I did get a lot of positive feedback for it, but it's not for everybody. Especially like, if you're not into tournament play. Okay, so this is episode 315, part 2. I'll put it up in the screen in a second. I don't like to put it up until I get the title updated so that if someone pops in, it's not confusing. Especially when we're doing a follow-up to a previous one. Okay, now I'll put it up in the chat or in the stream. FlyW's gold silver roster was all silver cards. Obviously didn't work. You know what though? Clay Dog and I had been talking about how good the pitching cards in silver are. And I went pretty heavily silver on the pitching side. I did have my favorite golds though in the on the batting side. And I frankly couldn't get some of the ones I wanted. Just that were sold out. You went silver because your data is silver. That's interesting. Yeah, Serpent. So you're probably new to the stream then. I've created a completely average league in the base game, where all the teams and all the players are as close to major league average and identical as possible. And so the idea is whatever we're testing that day is the only difference in the league. And so we try to minimize, and we also do things like we turn off injuries, we turn off trades, we turn off development. We want to minimize any changes to the profiles so that the one thing we're testing is the only thing that's changed in the league. It's because I like doing experiments like this, and it seemed worth the time to invest to like come up with and build this league, set it up as a quick start, and now we have it and we use it all the time. So it turned out to be a great investment of time early on. So yeah, so we have that. So the but for this experiment, it might be the Achilles heel of the experiment because and this came up last cycle when we tested it in OOTP25. Baffle 99 was the first one to mention it, and then last night I think Bob Dabalina also mentioned it too. Is that like can strategies actually be very effective if everyone's the same? All your players are the same. All your opponent's players are the same. Some of these strategies, for example, left-right matchups don't matter in this league. So I think we're going to revisit this once I make a version of this with some lefties and righties in it. But there's also no splittiness. I created everyone so there's no splittiness because there's no lefties. So I think when we introduce that, we might see different results because then left-right matchups may become more important, and the strategies that implement those might actually perform better than they did in this first experiment. But yeah, that's a great question though to make sure that we're controlling for those things, and we are. So yeah, so this is Team Strategies Part 2. So in tonight's stream, this is typical. I'll edit a previous version's pack giveaway form. And this one it's highly relevant because it's the first version of this. In tonight's stream, we'll be testing the impact of 7 preset team strategies in OTP, and an 8th that is based on the two best based on two of the best performing strategies from part 1 of this experiment. All right, we'll be using the single division 8-team version of the completely average league. And this answers Serpent's question too. In this league, all players have their attributes set to be identical and close to major league average as possible. All batters and pitchers are right-handed. The only difference between the 8 teams will be which strategy they are running. This actually turned out not to matter. Just to make sure, we'll change manager strategy purposes to neutral. The plan was to also turn or edit all manager strategies to neutral, but this was not even possible with coaching turned off. Okay, so we believe this means that the team strategies will be implemented without interference. Okay. And for future reference, this league is usually split up into 2 4-team sub-leagues, the average league and the neutral league, with no interleague play. And what that lets us do is run 2 sets of experiments in parallel. Usually it'll be like if we're testing an attribute, in one league we'll be boosting those attributes and the other league will be nerfing those attributes, and we'll see. Like, a lot of times it's interesting, it's not asymmetrical. Like, one attribute might be the most important when it's boosted. You would then think, well, then if it's nerfed, it must also be the most detrimental, and it won't be. And so, like, it's really important. Boosting it helps a lot, but nerfing it doesn't matter too much at all. But nerfing a different one really kills you. And those experiments, to me, are the most interesting. But in this case, we're putting all 8 teams into one division because we want them competing against each other, because we don't want to have 2 sets of results, 4 strategies versus 4 strategies, and then we don't know how to reconcile across the sub-leagues. Okay, so here are the teams. Based on part 1 experiment, we will be dropping the moderate, which one was it? Moderate tactician. To finish dead last in run differential. Negative 265 versus negative 120 for 7th place. That strategy will be replaced by a hybrid strategy that takes the offensive strategies from the strategy with the most runs scored in part 1, and that would be traditional. And the defensive strategies from small ball, which had the fewest runs against in part 1. 6,815 runs. I should probably also mention somewhere up here, I did mention in this sentence, but this is done in a 1,620 game season. We'll put it up here. Both parts 1 and parts 1 and 2 will be tested in a 1,620 game season. 10x a single MLB season. I'll just put Hey, Talkmado, pulled your first perfect. Congratulations. Oh, hey, do you guys want to hear something interesting? I thought it was interesting. A few a few days ago, I did a tribute stream for Octavio Dotel, who tragically died in that Dominican Republic club collapse that also killed, last I saw was 89 people, but that number kept going up. All right, here was the title slide for it. He did come up with the Mets. He played for 13 teams. That's one of the things I really liked about him. He was a journeyman pitcher who just hung in there, bounced around, but still kept playing 15 seasons, I believe. But I think what a lot of people overlook is he bounced around, but he was very good. The quality of his seasons was, and I think that's one of the things that we learned from this sim, was outstanding. We took, we took 5 versions because he was mostly a reliever. With the Mets, he came up as a starter, but he still pitched out of the pen a little bit. Even by his second season, he was mostly coming out of the pen. So we took those first 5 seasons because that's when he was closest to being a starter. And we just gave him higher stamina as if he were a starter. I didn't change a single other thing. His stuff, his control, his pitches, all those ratings I left untouched. And his 2002 season, which, like Tonkmato said, his early seasons were great. All we did was add stamina, and he went 32-1, just over a 2 ERA, struck out 299 batters, and won the Cy Young Award in our simulation. And the team, won the World Series. And I thought it was I'm glad that it worked out that way, because when we do these simulations commemorating someone who passed away, or we did one for the Hall of Fame class that was inducted, so they're not always sad. The Hall of Fame one was pretty fun too. But it was great to see those versions of Dotel just dominate and really show off how good he was. But anyway, last night, or the last 2 nights, I've been ripping packs, hoping to get some live cards to play in PTCS. And I pulled the perfect Octavio Dotel. And I thought that was great. I was like, we just did this theme sim celebrating his career. He performed really well in it. And then, the next day, I ripped the perfect Octavio Dotel card. So I thought that was great. But yeah, I really was glad that it really came through how good his seasons were. I mean, literally only changed one thing, his stamina, and he became a 32-1 starting pitcher, which is crazy good. So that was his 2002 season, and it happens to be the season that the perfect card is based on. So, as Laptop Hound would say, synchronicity. Shout out Laptop Hound. So yeah, sorry, back to today's sim. Alright, so this, so ultimately what we're going to have is, to help with your guesses, here are the run differentials. Alright, I'll just put those in here for now. Hybrid. Unknown. We haven't done that yet. Traditional. Plus 246. Balanced, plus 177. Tactician, plus 65. Moderate, sabermetric, -2. So only 3 teams had positive run differential because traditional balance were so positive. Sabermetric, -21. Moderate small ball, -80. Small ball, -120. Moderate tactician, -120, -265. Right, moderate tactician has been removed from part 2. The hybrid is now added to part 2. Or I guess it's NA. We didn't have. Okay. So that'll give you a little bit of context. Of course, if you're watching the stream, you have a little bit more context because I gave you all the run versus data, wins data. And if you watch Thursday, Friday afternoon, you have that context as well because we did all that on stream. All right, it is Price is Right rules. Closest answer wins. You can be over and still win a question. Seven packs for first place, 3 packs for second place. The big things to remember, especially when you're answering the numerical questions, the season is 10 times as long as a standard Major League season. So if you think a particular team is going to win, let's say 85 games, you probably want to put 850 because it's going to be 10 times as long of a season. The reason I did 10x is we get more data, but it's easy to just translate that to a single season by just moving the decimal point over. Injury, suspension, like I said earlier, anything that would change the team over the course of the season is turned off. Development, trades, the modifiers are on but locked. So that is to say, it will retain the modifiers to maintain the feel of 2024. But if we add players, it will not boost or nerf them to try to match the era. But we're not changing any players. We're not importing players. We're not creating players. We're just changing strategy. So it should not matter that it's modified or not. All right, the questions are, what is, please provide your login ID for OOTP26. That's how OOTP Developments gives you their packs. I will not show this on stream. I will show this, which is your Twitch username. Presumably you're okay showing that because it's in the chat. So this is how we'll talk about who's winning and things like that. All right, so which team will score the most regular season runs? Now we're taking moderate. Wait, which one are you taking out? Moderate tactician. Moderate tactician is being taken out, so we'll replace this one with hybrid. And this is offense from traditional, defense from small ball. And I'll just copy this and we'll just replace it in all the other, because I think the questions will stay the same. Which team will score the most regular season runs? Which team will allow the fewest? Which team will have the best run differential? This one wasn't a great question. I wanted to see if the moderate or standard strategies would be better, and I don't think it was clear. Now, in the standings, 2 of the 3 moderate strategies were in last place and second to last place. But when we looked at run differential, that was not the case. So I'm gonna drop this. Plus, I think it raised more questions than it answered. Now we get into the numericals. If we go into the numericals still tied, whether it's for first and second or just second, it's just whoever gets the most answers right or is closest on the most questions is going to win. It's no longer a survivor style once we get to the numericals. All right, how many regular season wins by the regular season champion? Again, it's 1,620 games, so think 10x. How many runs scored? And I give you the MLB average by the team that scores the most runs. Runs allowed by the team that allows the fewest runs. Stolen bases by the team with the most steals. And I give you the 2024 actual. We are playing in 2024, but with the reminder that it's a 10x long season. Sacrifice hits by the team with the most regular season sacrifice hits. Walks allowed and home runs allowed. All right, so I think we're good here. We just have to create the hybrid team to replace the moderate tactician team, and then we're ready to start the sim. So let me put this. Let me put the standings up again, in case anyone wants to look at that. If you want to screenshot it, feel free. While I publish this form. Link to forum for tonight's 10-pack giveaway. All right, good luck, everybody. You have until we start the simulation to submit your form, so you have time. Okay, so normally I do a 3-minute ad roll right before we start the sim to make sure we're not interrupted. But I actually need to get water now and hit the restroom. So let's do a 3-minute ad roll now. I'll still give you extra time to finish your forms after we set up the experiment. It'll be a quick setup though, so you might want to start filling out now. And I'll leave this table up on the screen for you to reference while I run the 3-minute ads. All right. Good luck, everybody. All right, I'm not sure if that was a full 3 minutes or not, but I am back. You still have time to fill out your forms because we're going to do the experiment setup right now. Yes, Claydog. I felt bad every time I looked at the the guesses and saw someone clearly had forgotten. Sometimes in the middle of a string of answers where they had clearly remembered. So I put it in every question. You've been guilty of that, yeah. That's your version then of when I do a traditional perfect draft and I think it's a double and I pick two players in the first few rounds and I realize I only got my second choice player every time. All right, so let's go back into the game. And I'm glad we have folks like Serpent, who sounds like he's new to our stream and our experiments in the chat. So always fun to be able to share this stuff with more people. Also, if you are new to the stream and it's a bit late for you, I also stream on Fridays in the afternoon or evening, 4 p.m. Pacific time, following Dr. Dynastic. Sometimes when he has to finish early, I'll start a little earlier if my schedule allows. But late nights and Friday evenings are when my family and work schedule allow. So that's why I stream at those times. It's not even ideal for me because I get tired, but it's when I can stream. So okay, yeah. So you're probably like a lot of people, sir. Where you follow, you might watch the vods, but you can't make the stream because of the timing. I totally get that, and that's why I leave the vods up. That's why the pack giveaway games, I put the form up as soon as I can, and you do not have to be present to win. Uh, or you can take the Tonk Mando approach, guessing random numbers. Go by luck and RNG rather than paying attention. That's a perfectly valid approach. All right, so we're still looking at EVC's championship run here. So let's exit out of this. Seriously though, could not have happened to a nicer, better OOTP community member than EVC at NYC2. Him winning PTCS like made my day. It was awesome to watch. Um, very few people do more, I think, for the OOTP community, and I don't think there's anyone who's nicer than that dude. So, um, but we're lucky. Like our big three streamers are all very entertaining, do a lot for OTP and for those of us who play, and are super nice. And that would be EVC and NYC2, Laptop Hound, and Dr. Dynastic. Um, we are very lucky to have them in the community. Yeah, Claydog, I agree. That was super fun. So let's see. We've shouted Lap, we've shouted EVC. We might as well shout out Dr. Dynastic. If anyone is watching is new to the game, those are the first three streamers you should follow and watch. They will give you the best sense of uh, the different fun ways to play Perfect Team, some fun ways to play the base game, but also introduce you to the community of Perfect Team and OTP players that are on Twitch. Should you spend your stars on Bruthers, O'Neill, or hold out for something better? I mean, my approach has been I'm holding on to my stars, waiting to see what those missions look like that are going to require those perfect cards. But I'm also not competing for League. And so I'm the wrong person to ask if you're competing for League. I'm more focused on tournaments and stuff. But you know that, Clay Dog. So you're probably asking more for input from the chat. Ooh, you're about to get demoted from High Diamond. Well, if High Diamond is like Diamond used to be, it is the most competitive leagues, right? Because you're getting the people who are getting demoted out of Perfect League. So you're like your incoming players are all amazing players with great teams that just got kicked out of Perfect League. So that's tough. All right, let's see. So here's you see our previous game was Experiment in Strategies version 1. This will be Experiment Strategies. I guess we'll call it version 2, although it's technically part 2 version 1. I might actually make that distinction. It might seem nitpicky, but I think it might be important when I go back and try to find different saves. I actually think that distinction might be important. So let me actually prepare that title off stream. All right, so we're gonna do a new game. Now this is technically a new historical game because we're playing in 2024. But I've created a quick start, so we're gonna do a new quick start game. It's the 8-team league. Because it does take a lot of time to set up this experimental league if we do it from scratch. The quick start is an easy way to just do that every time. All right, we're going to be in commissioner mode, cannot be fired. I don't want to take over a specific team, so we're just going to leave that unselected. We'll start unemployed. All right. Now, two things that don't carry through in a quick start are the mailbox settings. So we're going to adjust these to what we want. And then also the manager options, which include when the game interrupts the sim. We're going to uncheck all of these. Those are all things that do not carry over in the quick start. Okay, now the first thing we usually do when we start up a new one of these is we're going to change the team names to match up with what we're changing in the game. Oh, wait, you know what? I shouldn't have started with this one. We have a league that's already ready to go. You know what? Those strategies are easy to change. And this way, everyone who's on watching the stream tonight can see the different settings. So we'll go through it again. It's worth doing, I think. So under game settings, we go to league settings. That opens up all these sub-menus. But under the default sub-menu of functions, we go to edit league structure. And here's where we'll rename the teams. Okay, so I'm going to go in the order that they are in the form. Hybrid. Traditional. Oh, you know, I think we call this the reason I like to keep it short is different tables in the game reference either the name/city, the nickname, or the abbreviation, and I'm trying to keep these pretty short so that the tables are a little more manageable. Tactician. Moderate sabermetric. Sabermetric. Small ball. And then moderate. Oh, sorry, moderate small ball was first. You just do the perfect Zach weak card. Still can't believe they had Zachs around. Well, you would believe it if they went by Zachariah, right? Or Zachary and Zachariah. You would believe that. But yeah, Zach does sound very like 90s. That's funny. I hadn't even thought about that till you mentioned it, though. Hey, Justin Silves, aka DJ Cool Dad. Good seeing you. Okay, so once the names are set, it makes it easy for me to remember what we're changing. All right, so balanced, all we're doing, and again, I'll go to front office. There are no managers for me to change because we turned coaching off. But I just want to double check that. That is correct. Okay, so here is the balance strategy. Okay, pretty much down the middle. One downside of this view is it's very hard to tell how plus or minus these are. If this bar were a little longer or the color code were more were a little sharper, you'd have a better sense of where you are. But these are slightly negative, and we don't. And this is slightly positive. These are slightly positive. But you can also open up your own base game and check these out too. This is something everyone has access to. So this is the balance strategy. The hybrid we'll do last because we have to find out what those are. This is moderate small ball. Right, you'll see shortly. It's a lot closer to the middle than small ball, but still has kind of the flavor of small ball. Zachariah sounds like the name of a door-to-door solicitor that you slam the door on. Moderate sabermetric. Again, this will be like sabermetric, but squished towards the middle. Now, you can tell how severe sabermetric is because the moderate version still has visible pink or orange, which most of the others are just like very slightly orange. So the moderate version is still a bit far to the left and right on these. Small ball. You just saw the moderate version of small ball. Here's the full version of small ball. Right, you see it's pretty heavy on the offense here to the right. And then slightly to the left or neutral on some of these defenses. This is the defensive strategy that we'll be grabbing. And as far as substitution strategy, I was viewing the top three as defensive because they relate to pitchers, and the bottom three as offensive as they relate to batters. And for pitching and defensive strategy, I think these are all defensive, and these are all offensive, right? So when I say it's going to be a hybrid, we'll take this top part from traditional, and these first three from traditional. We'll take this whole middle section from small ball and the last three from small ball. I'll grab these in a second, but I wanted to do all these in a row so that you can all see what they look like. Here's the standard sabermetric. You just saw the moderate sabermetric. Well, here's moderate sabermetric, just to refresh your memory. Here's moderate sabermetric. Here's full sabermetric. Okay, it's just more extreme. More red, more green. Right? The things that are to the left are more to the left. The things that were to the right are more to the right. That's sabermetric, full sabermetric. And then we've got tactician. Tactician, I think of as very hands-on. It's very active. It's stealing, it's squeeze play, it's infield shifting, outfield shifting. It's using matchups, it's pinch hitting, right? So it's just a very hands-on strategy. And then traditional is kind of like what the name would imply. It's a little bit old school, like not as much shifting, not as much left-right focused. I was a little surprised that on tactician the offensive strategy is like right down the middle. I thought traditional would involve more bunting and stealing, but I guess that's covered by small ball. So anyway, those are the strategies. Now let's look up what we need for hybrid. We're going to take the offensive sections from Tactician, and I'm just going to record them in a notepad here. Or no, was it Tactician or Traditional? I keep forgetting. Traditional. Okay, this is Traditional. The offense from Traditional, I think these are middle of the road. Now to check, I'm going to see, can we go 5 to the right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so this is dead center. And these appear to all be the same. So that's pretty easy. The offense for a hybrid team is down the middle. Or what we could just do, I guess, actually, you know what? Most of these are defensive. So let's just import small ball. And then we'll take these offensive ones and make sure they're in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what I'm doing is I'm making sure they're all the way to the right. And then moving them 5 to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now there are 3 offensive down here. Offensive substitution strategies. So let's go get those from Traditional. Okay, those are down here. Okay, I think these are in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. And this, I think, let's see. 1, 2, 3. So they're -2 because you can go 3 more to the left. These are both this is -2. These are neutral. Left-right batting matchups is -2. Pinch hitting, both pinch hitting ones are neutral. All right, so this is hybrid. -2. And just to make sure they're neutral, I'm going to take all the way to the right and then go back 5. Okay, so it's very middle of the road. This is almost neutral. But this is our hybrid strategy. It's really crazy. It's small ball with completely neutral offense except for left-right batting matchups is -2. So it's a very down the middle strategy. But as far as our part 1 experiment, it is taking the best of the offensive strategy results and the best of the defensive strategy results, and let's see what happens. All right, so now that it's all set, let's go ahead and save this. And I do want to save this as a quick start. Now this one, I believe, based on the quick start we used, it's still a 162 game season. Now the way we check is we look at December. If there are no games, yeah, this season still ends in September. So that's the other thing we need to change. And we'll save it as a new quick start with the full 1,620 games. So game settings, league settings, that pulls up all these submenus. Under options, we can make this 1,620 games. Now, that doesn't make it so, though. We did ask for that to be 10 times longer, but the schedule is still a 162 game schedule. So we go back to functions and we go to edit league structure, and there's a button here that says generate schedule. And now there's a new schedule that matches a number of games. Now if we go back to the team schedule and go to December, we're playing through December 31st. So it looks like that took. All right, so now everything is set. We'll save this again. And we'll save it as another quick start. Hybrid strategy with traditional offense and small ball defense in 1,620 game season with schedule generated. Okay. So for example, if we say, you know what, this was interesting, but maybe 10x is still too small of a sample size, we can come back to this quick start and run it again. Or we can come back to this one and make it 16,200 games and then run it again. As long as you remember to regenerate the new schedule. Okay, so we are ready to sim. So if you are working on a pack giveaway form, please go ahead and submit that. Because I am about to close the form. I'm not seeing anything in the chat asking me to hold off, so last chance. If you're still working on your form and want to submit, go ahead and tell me to wait in the chat. I will wait. I have no problem giving people time to fill out their form. All right, looks like we're good. I'm going to close the form. All right, I will share with you what the guesses look like. Let me get it set up here, and then I'll put it in the stream. All right. Some pretty interesting guesses here. All right, which team will score the most regular season runs? There are 7 responses. The vast majority going with traditional in a continuation of what we saw in part 1. 1 going with sabermetric, and 1 going with the hybrid. Okay, which team will allow the fewest regular season runs? Just over half going with small ball, who did give up the fewest regular season runs in part 1. 1 for sabermetric, 1 for hybrid, and 1 for balanced. This is interesting. For both of these, not a lot of support for hybrid, which has the same offense of the traditional, but the same defense of the small ball. So that's interesting. Which team will have the most or the best or most positive run differential? Now this is a mixed bag. We've got 2 guesses for hybrid, 2 guesses for traditional, 2 guesses for balanced, and 1 guess for sabermetric. So that's very interesting. That's very split. All right. Well, now that the guesses are in, the form is locked. We're gonna sim to opening day. This will allow us to look at the preseason predictions. This is taking a long time to set up. I'm very surprised. Okay. Here we go. The season is, we're at opening day. We got MLB, reports and info. Preseason predictions. Now again, they're in order of wins and losses, but we will look at the runs scored and the runs against in the prediction. Flying Debbie says the sim will either be glory or pain. I'm the only one with faith in hybrid, it seems. I mean, the one thing I can see against hybrid is, like, if people see that as, like, splitting the difference and maybe not getting the best of either, maybe. I prefer to look at it as, like, the best of both worlds, but who knows. What the AI thinks is that balanced will now finish in first place, and hybrid will finish in dead last place. Interesting. Now, for most runs scored, tactician, or traditional, which was first in part 1, is predicted to be second in runs scored, with moderate sabermetric being first. Now, what really happened was moderate sabermetric finished fourth, but not a distant fourth, but definitely not first. Now, in runs against, the fewest runs against is predicted to come from moderate small ball. Moderate small ball was one of the only 3 teams to allow over 7,000 runs. So this is very different from what happened in part 1. Moderate tactician actually gave up the most runs in part 1. And moderate tactician here, is dropped. We dropped it because it was so bad. Forgot about that. All right. All right. So that's interesting. Let's go to a standings view. We're going to start the sim. All right, let's do the first year. We might as well run a full year here. All right, that is year 1 in the books. Probably about a season and a half in, right? Roughly 250-ish games, a little more than a season and a half. Balanced, that did finish close to. They finished in second place. In part 1 is in second place here. Tactician, traditional, which finished first, is in tied for second to last place, if you want to think about it that way. The hybrid is in second place. But again, most of the questions and our assessment is going to be based on runs and runs allowed. So we won't see that till the end. Hybrid has risen to the top now. Moderate sabermetric actually putting in a strong showing. Now, moderate sabermetric was only barely negative in run differential, which is good enough for fourth in part one. I think part of what this is showing too is the RNG that just stacks up to get to wins and losses. Okay, hybrid, which was first and second place, now is dropping to sixth place. Traditional, our former champion, is in fourth place. Traditional, unbelievably, has risen to the top again. Traditional just cannot be stopped. That is so interesting to me. Traditional now 4 games ahead. Now the sabermetrics making a big comeback from how they did in part one. Second and third in the standings. Moderate sabermetric finished dead last. But again, that was in the standings. Moderate sabermetric was much better in the run differential. Hybrid languishing in sixth place still. No, fifth place. Fifth place now. But yeah, traditional back on top. Very interesting. All right, 2007. We've got a little over 2 years left to go in this sim. Hybrid still in fifth place. Traditional battling out for first place with moderate sabermetric. Hybrid just cannot crack that top half yet. It's coming close though. Okay, hybrid in a dead heat for fourth place with sabermetric. Tactician now in the lead, but only 1 game ahead of moderate sabermetric and 4 games of traditional. The top four is very tight. Baseball casuals everywhere cheer the power hitter batting number 4. 5W chose tactician the first time around. Interesting. All right, we are a year and a week away from the end of the simulation. January 18th, 2029. And we are at January 1st, 2028. So we'll have 2.5 weeks left after this. Moderate sabermetric now, over a dozen games ahead. Moderate sabermetric, if I recall, was one of the top choices, guesses in part one. Again, this is the standings, though. All of our questions are based on runs. Runs scored, runs against, run differential. Okay, with 3 weeks, with 2.5 weeks left to go, Moderate Sabermetric has clinched one of the top 2 spots. I believe it's Tactician, Hybrid, and Traditional battling out for second place. I don't think it'll be much of a race, though, with only 2.5 weeks left. Now, if you recall, we removed Moderate Tactician. They were last in the standings in run differential. Second worst was Small Ball, and now Small Ball has the worst record. They might have the worst run differential too, as run differential was pretty well correlated with win-loss record last time around. All right, let's finish the regular season. Oh my goodness, Hybrid! Holy cow, Hybrid in a dead heat with Tactician with 1 day left to play. Who is playing who? Is Hybrid playing Tactician? No, Hybrid is playing Small Ball. Big advantage for Hybrid. Tactician is playing Moderate Small Ball. Okay. Let's stay in this view. Tactician wins 5-1. Hybrid must win to force a 1-game playoff. Hybrid loses and is eliminated from the playoffs. Alright. We have to sim the rest of the day to make it official. Tactician, 1 game in a 1,620 game season. That's the equivalent of finishing 0.1 games out in a regular season. Amazing. All right, let's go to the postseason. This is now a super small sample size. Hybrid did do pretty well. They did do pretty well. That is true. All right. I guess we might as well go with the scores view. All right. Tactician wins a close one, 3-2, scoring 1 in the top of the 9th. Moderate Sabermetric battles back, ties the series at 1. Travel Day. Moderate Sabermetric retakes the lead, 2-1. Moderate Sabermetric in the top of the 10th wins 4-3, taking a 3-1 series lead. Can Tactician force a game 6? They do. Oh my goodness, scoring 2 in the bottom of the 9th to force a game 6. Unbelievable. Travel Day for game 6. Can Moderate Sabermetric close the door? They cannot. Tactician, top of the 13th, 3 runs to win 6-3. They tie the series at 3 apiece, forcing a deciding game 7. It takes 7 games. It's a 4-3 game. Tactician wins the World Series. All right, let's go now to the postseason awards. Oh, actually, let's save the regular season, the postseason. Those are done. Let's, I guess we need to finish today. All right. You'll note when we push back the season this far, all the awards come out on the same day. All right, we're just gonna look to see if there are any patterns here in the awards. Okay, best gloves. Seems pretty random. There are 3 for small ball. 1/3 of the when the fair share is 1/4. That's easily RNG. Platinum sticks. Oh, there was no hybrid. That's interesting. Yeah, there is no hybrid in here. That is interesting. Platinum sticks. There is a hybrid in here. Pretty assorted. Uh, Rookie of the year. Again, pretty assorted here. They did reliever of the year in different order. Oh, that's rookie of the month. All right, so where's this is pitcher of the month. Where is reliever of the year? This bullpen ace is for the month. Okay, well, here's the Cy Young equivalent, I think. 3 small balls. That's interesting. A 4th down here. Tactician is so 3 small balls in the top 5. The other 2 are tactician. That is interesting. And when you factor in that hybrid is using small ball defense, that's 4 of the top 6 using small ball defense. The other 2 are tactician. Okay, for MVP. Wow, the top 3 are tactician, and 5 of the top 7 tactician. Interesting. Tactician was the 3rd best offense in part 1. They were behind traditional and balanced. Okay, now the real test is let's look at the team stats. And I'm going to do the same thing we did last time. I'm going to create a spreadsheet. Let me set that up first. Sorry, I think I muted for something because I was coughing and I forgot to unmute. What's the last thing I said in the stream? I was just reading out numbers to myself as I was typing them in. But I left the table up instead of the spreadsheet so that if you note any anomalies in the data while I'm typing in the data into the spreadsheet, and then we'll flip over to the spreadsheet shortly. So runs allowed, I'm typing in from the top down, 6790, 6959, a very nice total. 6932, another very nice total. 7184. That's a big jump in runs allowed. 7006. 6812. 6973, another very nice total there. And then 7075. Okay. So now run differential is just a calculation. So we'll put that in here. That equals runs scored minus runs against. And it'll suggest an autofill. Okay. So let's color code. Most wins. Fewest wins. All right, and then we'll do a sort here. We'll sort by runs. All right, most runs was by traditional. Again, traditional comes in with the highest run total. I think that's consistent though, right? Didn't traditional have the most runs last time? Yeah, they did. That's why we chose their offense. So traditional, most runs again. So that's been very consistent, surprisingly. Small ball again with the fewest runs. Those 3 small balls, Clay Dog. Okay, runs against. We'll sort by runs against. All right, the most runs against, which is the worst. Traditional. And the best runs against, this time not small ball, was actually moderate sabermetric. And that's going to give us a very different set of run differentials, too. All right, moderate sabermetric tops in run differential this time. And worst in run differential, small ball by a huge margin. All right, so this time around, moderate small ball in a win for modern baseball, I guess. Moderate small ball had the most wins, but also had the best runs allowed and the best run differential by a pretty healthy margin. And again, supporting those of us who don't like to waste outs on bunting and things like that. Small ball and moderate small ball. Oh, sorry, moderate sabermetric. Sorry, moderate sabermetric. In a victory for modern baseball, it's moderate sabermetric as tops. And tied for the, or not tied for, but in the cellar, the bottom 2 teams, both in the standings and in the run differential, moderate small ball and small ball did the worst. And I think, again, a victory for those of us who believe that bunting and hit and runs are just potential wasted outs. All right, so now I think we have enough information to give away some packs. So let me put the stats back up for a second while I get that ready. We're going to hide everything but the Twitch IDs and the guesses. So first we'll do the non-quantitative guesses. All right, which team will score the most regular season runs? All right, and that was traditional. We had several guessing traditional. Now, interestingly, hybrid, which theoretically is the traditional offensive pieces, scored 69-60, that putting them in the bottom half of runs scored. That's interesting. Okay. Which team will allow the fewest regular season runs? That was moderate sabermetric, which no one guessed. Clado did guess sabermetric, but he's already been eliminated. Which team will have the best regular season run differential? Moderate sabermetric, which no one guessed. All right, so now we go to the numericals. So whoever guesses closest on the most will win first place. Whoever guesses closest on the second most will win second place. So let me resize the columns a little bit. Ripley the Oriole. Thank you for the raid. Welcome in, Raiders. We are going over the results of our experiment tonight. I did catch part of your stream earlier today while I was doing some other things, Ripley. And I heard you talking about PBABIP. One of my favorite things is listening to Ripley talk about PBABIP. You made the 2027 World Series with the Marlins, but lost in 5. That's a bummer. So, if I understand correctly, this is a save where you took over the Orioles, took them to some championships, and then in the same save, you changed your ownership. Oh, this is a brand new save. Okay. Okay. So you're no longer having to face your old team. Oh, new save for new OTP. Makes sense. Makes sense. That is true, Clay Dog. I like hearing anyone talk about PBAB, but I especially like hearing Ripley talk about PBAB because he seems to really understand PBAB. Enrique Bradfield put up 6 WAR in center field in Miami. Very nice. So to catch you all up on what we've been doing, we are doing a part 2 of an experiment that we did Thursday afternoon. And that is an experiment to see, in our completely average league, which of the preset strategies might be most effective. So those are also in Perfect Team, but also in the base game. It's the things like traditional, tactician, small ball, sabermetric, moderate sabermetric. So in part 1, we found that surprisingly, traditional resulted in the most runs scored, and small ball resulted in the fewest runs against. And the best run differential was also traditional, who had the highest run scored. So then for part 2 tonight, I thought, well, what if we take the offensive parts of the traditional strategy and the defensive parts of the small ball strategy? So the offensive parts of the team that had the most runs scored and the defensive parts of the team that gave up the fewest runs, and combine them into a hybrid strategy. And to make room, we just dropped off the team that had the worst run differential in part 1, which was moderate tactician. And so we're looking at the results of that. And I can put those results back up here. So we also are doing a pack giveaway based on guessing the results. So the results were now runs already have a lot of RNG involved. Wins have even more. It compounds the randomness. And we did all this in a 1,620 game season. So all the numbers are 10x a major league season. And that's why the win totals are in the 800s. That is an interesting question, Takmedo. It touches on what I was talking about in the intro, which is Major League Baseball is Major League average. But you have your Shoheis and Judges, and then you also have your scrubs. But it all, balances out to form Major League average. Our Major League average is everyone's the same. Takmedo is proposing yet another Major League average where half the team is great, half the league is great, half the league is terrible, and they're still Major League average. And, Takmedo, that might be one that would be interesting to create. The reason I started with everyone being the same is that I don't have to deal with things like, what if the really good players or the really bad players don't get enough playing time? Or what if the AI makes certain decisions that, as soon as you change the amount of playing time, like let's say the zero value players get, you completely throw off the averageness. And can you force the AI to play your zero players as well as your max players? I don't know if that's possible. And so that's the other reason I started like right down the middle. But that is a very interesting proposal. If we can find a way to force equal playing time, that would be a very fun way to run these experiments. But anyway, this time around, Moderate Sabermetric had the best win total, the best runs against, and the best run differential by a pretty big margin. And then the worst performers were the two versions of small ball. Now, traditional still had the best offense, which again was a surprise to me. And so with that, we're going to try to give away our packs. Now, before the quantitative sections of the questions, we were only able to narrow it down to 5 of our 7 contestants who guessed that traditional would again have the best offense. Or no. Yeah, the best offense. But no one else guessed who would have the fewest runs allowed and who would have the best run differential, which were both moderate sabermetric. Now, to Clay Dog's credit, he did get sabermetric for those. But he also gets sabermetric for everything. So, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. Okay, regular season wins by the regular season champion. This is a bit of a measure of how dominant or equal was the league. And it was pretty equal. The wins were not spread out very far apart. This is the equivalent of having a division champion with 83 wins and a last place team with 77 wins. Very little separation. But 832 was the answer here. 832. The closest guess, I believe, is 841 by Flying WV. One closer than Mewtwo. All right. And let's give a color code here, too, so it makes it easier to add it up. Oh, wait. Flying WV is not in the final group, though. So let's also... Within the final group, it is Mewtwo. All right, how many runs scored by the team with the most regular season runs? 71-27, again, by Team Traditional. Flying WV, again, super close, but Late to Hate, a little closer, and in the running. That's an important one for Late to Hate there. Okay. Runs allowed by the team that gave up the fewest regular season runs. 6790 by Moderate Sabermetric. 67.90. 14 away is late to hate. I think that's the closest. Yeah, I believe so. All right. 2 now by late to hate. Most regular season stolen bases. We've got to go to the game data for that one. Stolen bases. Small ball. Wow, small ball had more than tactician. Interesting. 1820. 1820. I think that's Flying WV. But of the teams that are still in the running, 1820. I think it's late to hate again. 1820. He's 307 away. Yeah, 2100. Yeah, there's no one closer. Yeah. Wow, late to hate dominating these numericals. About to clinch it, I think. All right, sacrifice hits. Again, we've got to go to the stats for this. Should be small ball. It is 285. Late take getting lucky in the last 24 hours. Does that mean you also did well in PTCS? 285. 285. Justin Silbs is the closest there with 250. Now, Mewtwo, or Justin Silbs will have to get the next one right to have a chance at tying late Tate for first place. Walks allowed. This was to reflect maybe pitch around. Oh, the wheel yesterday. That's right, late Tate. That's right. Walks allowed. Team pitching. The most regular season walks allowed. 50-24 by Team Traditional. Oh, it went low. 50-24 went low. Mewtwo is the closest. Staying alive in the competition and keeping late to hate from clinching. All right, let's see if Mewtwo can tie. Home runs allowed. Home runs allowed. Home runs allowed. The most home runs allowed. 1955 by Team Traditional. 1950. Oh my goodness, 1950. Okay, I don't have a method for breaking a tie after all this, so here's what we're going to do. Late Tate is going to win first place with 3 closest guesses of the finalists. And Justin Silbs and Mewtwo will each get 3 packs. And I will just explain to Nicolino that we had a tie. And it's just 3 extra packs. So I don't think he'll give me a hard time for that. So congratulations, everybody. And thanks, everyone, for participating. I'm still surprised that Traditional does so well offensively. I think part of it is stealing seems to be more effective in 26. And Traditional does go pretty hard into the stealing. I mean, we can look at the profile. You might as well take a look. Team Traditional. Oh, no, wait. No, it's not true. It's Tactician that goes heavy into the stolen bases. Traditional is right down the middle, which is extra confusing. I forgot about that. traditional is super confusing because it doesn't do anything. It's right down the middle, and it's the best offense. So you can't even say it doesn't waste outs on bunts because it's in the middle for bunts. This is one of the more baffling results, but it's 2 times in a row now that traditional has had the best offense by just being right down the middle. That's I could do these strategy sims over and over because the results are so interesting. So Talk Beto says you finally see a weird season. Luis Aloma, 1955. Okay, I'm gonna make note of that. I'm gonna check it out off stream. Oh no, actually, we can look it up in BREF. Let me pull up a BREF window. I'll put it in the stream in a second. Luis Aloma. Okay. All right, here's Luis Aloma, as suggested by Tonkmato, and we're looking at the 1951 season. 6-0, 1.82 ERA. 1 game started. Very nice inning total, 69 and a third. A 2.23 ERA plus and a 1.096 WHIP. This is a perfect season for. In the Discord, I've asked a question about what are some of the spikiest seasons we've ever seen. This also fits that too, but Tonkmato calling out the fact that he had 1 start out of 25 games pitched, 1 complete game, 1 shutout. That is amazing. But this also fits. The reason I'm looking for spiky season where there's 1 dominant season surrounded by a couple of average seasons, which this would be. 2.23 ERA plus surrounded by a 1.19 and an 86. A 1.096 WHIP surrounded by 1.483 and 1.325. The reason I'm looking for these seasons is we recently learned by experimentation and then confirmed by OOTP developments in the forums that when you import a player season, so if right now if we tried to import the 1951 Luis Aloma, right? You're actually getting a hybrid of 50, 51, and 52. So you won't get this spiky season. Now, the other thing that Matt from OT Development said in the forum was that that's something that they can work on adding, which is giving us the option of just importing that specific year that we requested, which is great. OTP has always been good about, I think, taking player feedback. I am surprised that wasn't the default, but at least now they're working on giving us that option. Did I throw the poll into no? But it was helpful though because I could give them the information. They're like, by the way, no one knows that you're doing this. No one knows that you're giving us a hybrid season. And it's interesting too because in most other parts of the game, it's more clear what you're getting by the kind of cues that are given in the menus and stuff. And I think one reason I think Matt was receptive was that we pointed out, and it wasn't just me, there are other people, including Fox Hill Dim, pointed out like it's not clear that that's what's being imported. And so it really does explain a lot of our past historic sims. Like the fact that the 1972 Steve Carlton always seemed underperforming relative to how crazy good that 72 season was. So for those of you who don't know, this 1972 Steve Carlton season is insane. because in the context of he played on a team. All right, 1972, 27 and 10. Keep that number in mind. 27 and 10. The team. Sorry, the team. The 72 Phillies. They won 59 games. The team won 59 games. He won 27 games. So on a terrible team, he won almost half the games they won. His ERA plus 182, 2.01 FIP, 1.97 ERA. The seasons around him 102 and 97 ERA plus. So on either side, he was about league average ERA. This peak season in 72, he was like twice as good as the league average ERA. His WHIP 1.365, 1.384. So nearly 1.4 the seasons around this season, 0.993. So like an insane season sandwiched between a couple of average seasons. And frankly for him, subpar seasons. But a dominant season. But every time I would import him, I'm like, man, why did he not dominate? Same with the 85 Gooden. Now 84 and 86 were fantastic, but 85 was dominant. He never quite dominated the way I would expect, and now I kind of understand why. And so what I want to do is make a whole roster of teams of players that had seasons like that. And then import them now when we're getting the 3-year average. And then when OT gives us this new ability to import just that single season, redo the season, then compare how those two seasons were. And if all the players are like this, that second sim is going to be a huge improvement over the first sim. And that's kind of what I want to see, because it'll really help me understand too, like, oh, now I understand why some players, now not all players, this method definitely helps the consistent players, right? The ones that are like consistently excellent. You don't get nerfed. You actually, your import will actually benefit relative to other players. But I'm looking forward to getting that option, and I put a hold on all my historic import sims, including the new game I'm developing, which requires historic imports of players, until we have that single season import ability, which hopefully will be soon. But yeah, I'm glad they're working on it. They are, as always, very receptive to feedback via the forums, and listen to the players. So, but yeah, I wanted to this Aloma season definitely would fit into that mold, and I'm going to add him to the list of one to consider for that team, because this one season is crazy. I mean, I know it's crazy for a different reason than Takmado brought it up. That complete game shutout out of nowhere is amazing. But also the spikiness of the season is exactly what I was looking for. So, and you can imagine, like, by looking at this Carlton season, right? A 12.1 WAR surrounded by 4.1 and 2.2. Right? I was importing him expecting a 12.1. Instead, I was getting probably a 6, right? If you average these three numbers, it's about a 6, I think. That's half of what I was expecting, right? And so that really explains why I'd be confused in the past. And with this Aloma season, right? Even with this small sample size, he had a 3.3 WAR. But if you average across these, it's going to be like about around a 1.4, I think. Right, a third of what you're expecting. Partly because you're pulling in this 0.1 season from 52. But yeah, this is crazy. One complete game shutout. Let's look at his game log. When did that happen? Let's see. Here's the shutout right here. 9 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. That is crazy. He threw a 5 hitter with 1 walk. A .667 whip for that one start. That's crazy. Yeah, Tomato, I thought the same thing until we did those experiments. It blew my mind. But then I was glad to hear from Matt that like that was what was happening, because then I'm like, oh, now I feel less crazy. Like I understand what's happening. And then as we asked, like, well, can that be changed? He seemed very receptive to it. So, um, and this is in a public forum. It's in the O2 forum. So I feel, and I checked. It's okay for me to share that because it's in a public forum that they are gonna work on giving us that the next time around. Well, maybe not the very next patch, but they are gonna work on giving us that ability. And it seemed like they understood that that is an important thing to those of us who play historic Sims. That we want that single season. Um, and people who don't realize that, which is 80% of people I surveyed, um, or over 80% by the time we finished. Instead of knowing that that's what's happening, they're probably like me, like a little disappointed in how some of those imports looked. Um, but now I understand why. So now I'm looking forward to like getting those true imports. It will be really fun. It'll completely change some of my old Sims that I've done before, and I probably will like breathe some new life into some of the historic Sims that we do. And then I mentioned too, Foxhill Dim was in that chat. Let's do a shout out. Fox Hill's doing this interesting thing where it's similar to what we did with the franchise favorites, where I asked a bunch of streamers, give me your all-time roster for your favorite franchise. And so Dr. Dynastic gave me his like all-time athletics. I did an all-time Mets. Twins 34 did an all-time Twins. Cheeky did an all-time Padres for us. But I didn't do much with it yet. Now I'm glad I didn't, because we would have been bringing in the wrong imports, and now we'll get the exact right imports we want. But what Fox Hill was doing is he was doing that himself. So he did all the research to do. He called it best player, best year for all 30 franchises. But then he learned from my discussion with OOTP in the forums that, oh wow, that whole sim that I did is based on 3-year blended imports. So now when he gets the 1-year import ability, he can redo that whole thing, and now he has uh, a whole league's worth of data to compare it to, and I think that'll be really cool. He can really show the impact of going from 3-year imports to 1 year. But yeah, highly recommend giving Foxhill Dim a follow. Check out his best player, best year. If he has them on VODs, there's probably some really interesting stuff in there for your favorite franchise that you might want to check out. I mean, of course, I'm your favorite franchise, but I meant your favorite team franchise. All right, let's figure out where we're gonna raid. On that bad joke, let's figure out where to raid. Unless Smiley Face Jane is in here and plans to stream tonight. But yeah, I think that was a pretty fun run at Team Strategies Part 2. Uh, yeah, making some big assumptions there. Oh, Finder, you like Sand Experiment? Yeah, I've raided into her a couple times. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I'm actually thinking about raiding into tonight Jiggly Dad, who is a music streamer. But the noteworthy thing about Jiggly Dad is he used to play OTP. I discovered his stream because he's pretty active in the chat of Sarah Mahoney Music, who we've raided into before. Let's give Sarah a shout out if the cooldown has already happened. So yeah, Sarah Mahoney Music. She's a piano streamer. Sings and plays. Um, Only does covers. So if you're into original music, she only does covers. But I really enjoy the way she arranges and adapts, songs to just the piano and voice format. And then also she does a lot of fun things in her stream too, um, fun musical things. But anyway, one of her really active, and I think maybe a mod in her chat is Jiggly Dad, and he was a gaming streamer who also plays piano and sings, and is now uh, making the shift into music streaming. But I found out pretty early on because when I raid into Sarah, it pops up that I stream OOTP baseball, and so he was like, oh, I used to play OOTP, and so I thought that was cool too. That he's like kind of an honorary member of the OOTP community, but is doing some music streaming. Midnight Sumo is streaming, but it's a replay, and I usually only stream into Midnight Sumo when they're doing live sumo tournaments. And then we've raided into Sensei Martian before, but we did that when he was doing his walk across Japan, which was amazing, by the way. Um, I mean, all the feels when he got to the end and he finished his walk. It was a pretty crazy achievement. But he's been back in Tokyo for a while now and does a lot of like, if you were doing a walk around Tokyo, I might raid into him. But yeah, I think he's just doing a chat stream tonight. Um, so I think it might be Jiggly Dad. The cool thing about Jiggly Dad, he does a lot of live learns where someone will request a song in his chat and he'll listen to it and figure it out and then do a quick version of it. And then I think he does work on them offline to incorporate them into his song list. So let's raid into Jiggly Dad. The thing that was every once in a while, it's kind of like going into Cavacom stream when he's looking at a choice pack, where you don't even know if your headphones are working because he's just like looking at the screen. Jiggly Dad during a live one sometimes is just listening to the song and like figuring out how to arrange it, and then it's like, wait, is my is my Twitch frozen? Nope, he's just figuring out a song. All right, so let's raid into former OTV player and music streamer Jiggly Dad. I actually don't think we've ever raided it to him. We may have actually a while ago, but Sand Experiment, who we did raid into recently. So let's give Jiggly Dad some raid attention here. But thanks for joining me. I hope you had fun with this experiment. I've yet to figure out what to stream tomorrow night, but hopefully it'll be something interesting. And as always, we'll have pack giveaways. And it'll be Sunday, so Ezra will be on before me. So definitely check out OTP After Dark, too. In fact, let's give Ezra a shout out before we raid out. Ezra Denny, OTP After Dark. One of the must follows, I feel like, if you're new to OTP. Alright, so let's do this raid.